From crazy aimbot and flying players in the air, Fortnite cheaters are absolutely crazy and have even earned hundreds of thousands of dollars by cheating in tournament. And today we're taking a look at how Fortnite cheaters have evolved and how Epic Games are finally getting rid of them.
Cheating is a big problem in competitive Fortnite.
Goodness.
It started off as the Wild Wild West where anything could happen. But
That's
as
crazy.
the years went on and Fortnite's anti-cheat improved, the cheaters had to get smarter and evolve in order to continue stealing money from Epic Games. Something a lot of them would come to regret.
Oh,
this
no.
is the evolution of cheating in competitive Fortnite. The first instance of cheating in Fortnite, really a big tournament, happened in one of the first tournaments hosted. This was the Summer Skirmish of 2018, and in week 2, iDrop Bodies placed first, winning $60,000. However, he also earned $20,000 for getting 20 eliminations in a game, since it was basically a pub stomping tournament, and another $50,000 for getting the most eliminations of any player. That's $130,000 in 1 week of an event.
You gonna tell me he cheated?
Fortnite tracker, he really didn't do anything after this. He placed around 82nd in week 4 of the fall skirmish, and then around top 400 in the fall skirmish, and then he just completely vanished. Now, after his big first place in week 2 of the summer skirmish, he was reportedly invited to the finals of the event, which was a LAN in-person event. He was invited to do interviews. However, there were rumors that he turned down the event because he needed to pick up his cousin from the airport. However, it's extremely suspicious that he was such a top-level player and could win a tournament and then would not come and show up in person. Especially true, he didn't record or stream any of this tournament. Epic Games investigated him and confirmed that he was not cheating, but some people suspect that he was doing something to get easier lobbies at the time, or just downright cheating. Despite Epic Games clearing him, many people do not believe this story at all, and he basically vanished from the internet, so we'll probably never know.
$100,000 as well.
Confirmed cheaters in cups was CIA Gov. His entire motive for cheating wasn't to earn money like a lot of the later cheaters we'd see, but instead to get recognition from streamers' live chat, get reactions. He would stream snipe pros playing Explorer pop-up cups and just troll them. He'd fly around with a quad crasher and juggle the players into the sky. He truly had unlimited power, as he could edit the island, and even if he was eliminated, which he did actually die to Vivid in one game, he could just respawn. He could basically do whatever he wanted. He had entire god mode cheats. In 2018, Fortnite's anti-cheat needed a little bit of work, and he stated he was able to actually do this for seasons without getting banned. However, I'm not sure how true this is, because he didn't do really anything in the World Cup qualifiers, and you'd think this would be the perfect tournament to troll. Eventually, after he did get hardware banned, he was able to bypass this at the time and continued to cheat on new accounts.
Dude,
as of this video by Ranger interviewing him in May of 2024, he is still active in the cheating scene, developing new ways to bypass the anti-cheat. But one of the most notorious cases of cheating did come from the World Cup qualifiers, and that was Ziff.
Oh man, this is
During
infamous.
week 3 of the solo qualifiers, Ziff was in the high point lobby, and he was contested off spawn by 2 players, Bad and Bougie and Guesty. These 2 players had the worst drops of all time and put up no fight and instantly died. This was very suspicious and was tweeted out by High Sky, which went viral. And after an investigation, Epic Games concluded that these 2 players were feeding elimination points to Ziff to help him qualify to the World Cup. This is obviously against the rules, so he was banned for 2 weeks, not very long, and Ziff had actually qualified to the World Cup finals, so he lost his qualification spot in solos. But what's funny is that Ziff is legitimately a good player. After getting unbanned, all of that teamwork from solos paid off, as he and Ronaldo was able to place 3rd in duos and actually qualify to the finals.
He qualified again!
You know, people were kind of annoyed about this. Let's go, Ziff. Good stuff, Epic Games. I love a good redemption story. Remember, kids, if you break the law or cheat, just wait 2 weeks and you'll get $50,000.
That's actually
crazy. The prize pool at World Cup, even if you just qualified, it was still $50,000 or last. A cheater qualifying for a $30 million tournament is a kick in the junk to the integrity of the Fortnite competitive
community. As if he was playing Ronaldo as well.
This should be unanimously agreed upon. Every time they were shown on screen, they were booed by the entire crowd.
Yeah, I remember. I was there.
Anytime they died, the crowd cheered.
Everyone wanted
As brutal
them
as
dead.
this was for players, it was undeniably one of the funniest moments in Fortnite competitive history. Ziff now plays competitive Valorant at a pretty decent level, so it's clearly he is a great gamer, but that's not what he's really going to be remembered for.
Oh, that's sad, isn't it? You shouldn't have cheated.
At the World Cup, as one of the highest profile disqualifications actually happened during the finals, where Russian player Ledwick was disqualified in Game 6 of the solos due to screen peeking at other screens around him.
He was looking
he
at
claimed that he heard a loud slam on a desk, which made him look over. However, Epic responded saying, after multiple warnings to the player, a penalty was assessed and he was removed from the match. He was not disqualified and will not be fined. So basically, he kept looking at other people's screens to gain information, and they disqualified him from the final match.
I was
kind
of smart.
From the tournament. He did manage to get his earnings, but he's basically not allowed to continue to play. After this, he kept playing tournaments more casually up until August of last year. However, he hasn't earned since October 2021. Now, I'm not going to be talking too much about glitches in this video, as I already have an evolution of glitches video entirely, which obviously some crazy glitches. However, one is definitely worth mentioning here, and that is the ELO glitch. In the Winter Royale of 2019, which was a $23 million cup, there was a bug which reset your points to 0. This meant that you would get incredibly easy lobbies because you're getting put into lobbies with other players who have 0 points, who are probably awful. All you needed to do was switch off of the region you were playing and then back to another one, and this would reset your points to 0. However, after 24 hours was over, all of these points would be added back up and the leaderboard would be corrected.
Okay, that's
this meant that players were continually playing 0 point, super easy lobbies and were able to win basically every match and get a high amount of eliminations. Now, no one was ever caught or banned for this, but there were a lot of players who were accused of doing this.
Is this bug
actually returned later in Season 7 in a slightly different manner. Rather than switching your region, all you had to do was have one player disconnect from the match, and you'd be put into the ELO of what you were before that match started. So basically, lower ELO. However, one season later, the first winner of an FNCS would be banned, and that would be Cakewood from OCE. Now, unlike the cheaters of Chapter 1 events, he was much more discreet. In fact, no one really even suspected he was cheating at all. But I even analyzed his gameplay in my Every Region winner video at the time, and there wasn't really anything glaringly obvious, but he did get banned. Now, unlike early Chapter 1 tournaments, there was a lot to play for with the huge FNCS prize pools, so there's much more of an incentive for players to cheat and be more subtle about it to not get banned. Now, I'm not entirely sure what he used, and to this day, he still swears that he never cheated at all, but as we'll come to see later, the OCE region has quite the cheating problem generally. But that wasn't the only cheating scandal.
It's Locky servers.
Bucky and Creo traded Storm Surge damage with keys and slacks, and using the heals around them in Slurpy Swamp were able to waste nothing from their inventories, basically racking up Storm Surge damage without any negatives. All 4 players were banned for this, despite in 2025 this literally evolved into every team doing this to the point where Storm Surge mechanic had to actually be changed. However, they were innovators of the strategy and were banned for it. It's just funny that Fortnite had just ended up accepting this later on. As it turns out, Chapter 2 actually really had a lot of different types of teaming. Now, this season also had a solo invitational, and then the following season, in Chapter 2 Season 3, had a solo FNCS. There were also a lot of solo DreamHack events being hosted online during this time, so this game mode was everywhere, and pros were kind of losing their minds. Solos would be a great game mode if it wasn't for other people, because for some reason in solos, people have absolutely no idea how to rotate and feel the need to fight you or shoot you when you both have to make a completely max distance rotate, griefing both of your games. What are we doing? What are we doing here, man? What are we doing? Do you know how easy we could have both rotated? Become a bit of a meme to tell people that you don't have to shoot every single player you see on rotate. But despite that, to this day, still, people have not learned. So back in Chapter 2, players started pickaxe swinging to signal that they weren't going to shoot you on rotate and that you were safe to go. Then you could pickaxe swing back and everyone could rotate freely, and it was a much more simple, beautiful time in solos. And I'll be honest, there was nothing funnier than pickaxe swinging, and when they turned around, you shoot them in the back and grief them. It was by far the most beautiful betrayal you could ever have.
I'd do that. 3 points, baby.
Other players, Epic Games actually made a blog saying that pickaxe swinging, emoting, toy tossing, and jumping, and any signaling basically to other players to say what to do would be bannable. And there are actually a few cases of pro players being banned for doing this, like Sosman here, who got a 2-week ban for presumably pickaxe swinging. He wasn't even sure. Another problem with solos is the drop spots and teaming. Look at any set lobby drop map and you'll see a major trend. Big drop spots are nearly always contested by players who are on the same team or from the same friend group or from the same country. In Chapter 2, Season 2, for example, Steamy Stacks was contested by Janice and Tayson. At this time, they were playing duos together, so they were both landing at the same drop spot, which makes people think, these guys are probably teaming off spawn. Whether they were or not, they actually did fight in a few different matches, but this is a problem that happens in every single set lobby. How do you stop that, though? Now, it's hard to prove specifically who is and who isn't teaming from this, because that drop spot might just be where they want to land, and because they've landed there in duos, they're comfortable there in solos. Well, let's be real, 99% of people are probably just teaming, including, and I probably would too. I love aside, hacking got way worse this chapter as cheaters found new way to push sales of their products. Generally, you have cheat developers, resellers, and then the users. The resellers started to become a big problem in Chapter 2 as they started to stream themselves using the cheats, intentionally knowing that they would get banned. However, because they'd be streaming large tournaments, they'd pull big numbers as they openly rage act. They'd do this all while promoting their cheating discords for others to buy. They'd get banned from the game, but then the next cup they'd be back on a new account. And this became a big problem on Twitter as well, with many cheaters getting popularity by making montages of them, aimbotting pros, and then linking to their discords underneath. Cheat distributors made a lot of money using this method, and what's funny is that often the product they were selling was just utter garbage and would all get players banned due to ban waves, which we will talk about a little bit later.
So don't get cheats, people.
Time, another cheat had been running rampant throughout the controller and console community, and that was the Cronus Zen. Now, the Cronus Zen is a cheating device that can be used for a whole host of games, and you plug your controller into it and then that into the system. It doesn't modify the game files of Fortnite in any way, but instead it modifies your controller's inputs.
A lot of people
at the time,
on
aim assist was much stronger if you were moving your crosshair and much weaker if you were not. So there are a lot of players who had controller stick drift for this reason, because it would continually move your crosshair and give you stronger aim assist.
It's almost like aiming off them a little bit.
Scripts that kept the aim assist more sticky by manipulating this. It also had scripts to reduce your recoil, giving you 0 recoil, along with other turbo and rapid fire scripts. The problem was that it was quite difficult to detect and see if someone was actually cheating because it was relatively subtle and didn't actually modify the game in any way. Many of the best controller players like Miro were accused of using it, and Unknown Army even showed that he was in possession of one on his stream at some point. However, in Chapter 3 Season 4, Epic Games added it to their restricted hardware list and actually started banning people for using it. Spoiler to later in the video, but they also sued the creators of Cronus Zen and forced them to remove any Fortnite and Rocket League scripts from the device. However, real cheats were getting pretty advanced to the point that llamas had to be removed from competition because a Discord had been created which showed the location of them in your match. Now, tournament replays ran on a 5-minute delay for the match, so 5 minutes into the game, all of the cheaters could use this Discord to find where llamas were placed. Now, that doesn't sound that strong, but at the time they had a 100% spawn rate for a launch pad, which was the main mobility item in that season.
Crazy.
Some coaches were also just going into replays while their players were in the game and scouting for llamas and launch pads, and then telling their players where they'd spawned. To prevent this from happening, Fortnite changed the replay delay from 5 minutes to the current 8 minutes, and also at the time removed llamas from comp. Another spoiler to the end of this video, but unsurprisingly, the creator of this got sued. Or he lied about getting sued. It's hard to tell because Epic Games didn't actually retweet or comment on this one at all. On top of this, Chapter 3 was just rough for hackers. With the introduction of these zero build tournaments, this made it even easier for cheaters to flourish. In build mode, you can always build to outplay them, maybe because most cheaters are downright cheats at the game, but in zero build, there's absolutely no way to win against an aimbotter. You're just not going to out 50-50 them. Most cheaters were still trying to hide it with soft aim, but it was usually pretty easy to tell when someone was cheating. Before even looking at their gameplay, you just had to look at their Fortnite tracker and see how long they'd been competing for and if they had any sudden spikes in their placements or PR. The problem though is once they were banned, they created new accounts and repeated the process. So with this strategy, many cheaters were able to get paid out earnings from the tournaments that they played, which incentivized them to continue and made cheating even worse.
I can't believe they're making money doing this.
Catch them because of the cat and mouse nature of anti-cheat. Cheaters are almost one step ahead because they develop cheats specifically to get around the anti-cheat, and then once that method is caught, they are banned, and then the anti-cheat is updated, but then they create new cheats to get around this, and they cycle repeats.
Stop it.
But things continue to get even worse going into Chapter 4 with the introduction of victory cash cups. Since all it took to earn was qualifying to the finals and then getting one victory royale, players could qualify to the finals without using cheats because there was a lot of players who would qualify to this, and then all they needed to do was cheat in one game and try and not get caught.
Look at this.
To track them was still looking at their Fortnite tracker and seeing if this was a fresh account that had just earned, well, they're probably going to be a cheater, or if they were really horrible and had just somehow managed to get a lot of earnings in a short space of time,
look at that.
A cheater. So these accounts were pretty easy to spot, but a lot of cheaters were able to get earnings in tournaments,
watching someone hacking is
further incentivizing people to cheat even more.
It's
so
satisfying.
To make their accounts less believable, rather than starting new accounts or buying old accounts from just random people, the accounts that became really interesting were ex-pro players who would quit. This is because if they made earnings, it would just look like this player came back to playing and it wouldn't be that suspicious. Now, the way regular cheats work are relatively simple. They're on your device and they alter your game files in some way. This makes them a lot easier to detect. And once the anti-cheat detects these, it might not actually ban them straight away. Instead, it might collect a bunch of data and find a lot of people who are on the exact same cheat as you and then ban you all at once, which is called a ban wave. So rather than using a public cheat like this, a lot of cheaters use much more private cheats. And at the same time, they also used DMA, which is called direct memory access. Now, as I mentioned, regular cheats alter the game files in some way. However, DMA is a separate system which can read the memory of Fortnite and alter the inputs of your keyboard and mouse to give you aimbot, or alter what you see on your monitor to give you wall hacks. So because it's not actually altering the files, this is way harder to detect. Now, all this may sound familiar because I've covered this in a video already titled Exposing Hackers at the Fortnite Global Championships, where notorious OCE cheater Forbes used the account of retired pro Repulse God whilst using a private cheat on DMA to win FNCS and then qualify to the FNCS Global Championship. Now, looking at the gameplay, it was even harder to detect because Forbes himself was a very good player before he ended up quitting and cheating, but because he qualified, the real Repulse God had to come out of retirement and show up to the event in person, and he barely played the game at all for the last few years. Every single person knew that he didn't qualify, and he was even telling the other players about it. Now, people at Epic Games absolutely knew that he was cheating, but from the outside, it seems like they didn't have enough information to confirm that he was cheating until he turned up at the event. And then, once he was there, he was banned. And surprise, surprise, later got sued. Naturally, with cheating is such a hot topic for the last 3 years in competitive Fortnite,
these stories are crazy.
People started to dominate every tournament with Poyo in Chapter 5, people got a little suspicious. Now, there are really a lot of thoughtless claims and some funny posts like this, which said, if Peterbot really isn't hacking, really in block capitals, he has the greatest aim of any professional player in any game in the history of esports.
Wow, okay,
now,
that's a big claim.
Odd-looking clips from him, but he went into the Global Championships in Chapter 5, which was a LAN event where you can't cheat, and absolutely dominated. It turns out he's just that guy, even though he still gets called Cheaterbot. But it's no surprise after the rampant cheating that Fortnite had
so
the
good,
previous
it's
few years,
crazy.
the guy as good as Peterbot got a lot of accusations. Now, cheating was still a big problem through Chapter 5, but it was Chapter 6 when Epic Games locked in. With the release of this chapter, they posted a tournament integrity blog post, and they changed a lot. They removed victory cash cups, zero build cups, and even most normal cash cups were replaced with the divisional cup system. Now, only players in the highest division can earn, giving cheaters way more rounds to qualify through and way more chances to get caught. You can't just legitimately qualify to Division 1 without being an actual good player, which in itself got rid of a lot of cheaters. Players also now needed to play 14 tournaments in the last 180 days to enter a prized tournament. And if you were a legitimate player who played with a cheater, you'd also be banned for 28 days, which would ban you from FNCS in that season. They also stated they'd be ramping up legal action. And boy, did they.
This is when it gets good.
2018, Epic Games has been suing cheat developers, and they covered all of this in a second blog post a few months later. If you follow them on Twitter, you've probably seen a lot of their tweets where they tweet out the fact that they won cases. But one of the cases was Repulse God, who we talked about earlier. As part of this, he was forced to publicly apologize, which is insanely funny, by the way. And the fact that this video has over 375,000 views makes this even better. He was forced to return all of the earnings, and Epic Games donated this to the Child's Play charity. They've at least publicly gone over 15 cases that I could find, one of which is insane. Sebastian Arujo, who had won $6,800 in earnings across 839 tournaments in 4 months. Now, we can make fun of him for being a cheating bum, but we cannot deny his work ethic, because 839 tournaments in 4 months is crazy. On average, that's like 7 tournaments a day. I don't even know if that math makes sense, I'll be honest. But do you know how much Sebastian had to pay back? $175,000. Now, it sounds a bit crazy to owe 25 times what you made, but Epic Games demanded the statutory minimum of $200 for each violation of the game's copyrights. Now, when you sign up for a tournament, you agree to the game's copyrights, and by cheating, you violate the copyright that you agreed to. So, 839 tournaments at $200 a pop.
Imagine telling your parents, right, that you need to pay $170,000 for cheating in a video game. You'd be paying that back for the rest of your life.
This blog also covered them suing and winning against Cronus Zen, which I talked about earlier. They also changed some entry requirements for tournaments, which was Secure Boot and TPM needed to be enabled on your computer, and accounts need to be over level 350 to enter, which is account level, not Battle Pass level. Now, this was at the start of Chapter 6, so where does this leave us with cheating now in Chapter 7?
What's
well, in order to cheat in a tournament, you have to have an account that's over level 350, played 14 events in the last 180 days, have TPM and Secure Boot enabled on your PC, and it'll take way longer to get an account that has these requirements because Epic has been suing account resellers, cheat developers, and cheat distributors. If you're still able to cheat in a tournament and earn prize money, Epic Games can sue you, and then you'll have to return the earnings, pay their legal fees, pay $200 for every tournament you entered, and and your teammates will also be bad. In Chapter 7, there are still cheaters in tournaments. It's always happened, and it's always going to happen. But honestly, at this point, I kind of feel bad for them because they're clearly not the sharpest tools in the shed. Because clearly they haven't risk assessed this. This is not worth the $100 before tax.
Don't do it. You heard it here. Do not cheat or you'll owe Epic a lot of money. Let me know if you ever run into a hacker, and click on screen here to find out what the rarest items in the history of Fortnite are. I bet you don't know most of them. I'll see you on that video. Thanks for watching, and thanks to Reese Hub for this amazing video we just watched.